Vintage on a budget. Thrift store finds and affordable ways to add old-world charm. Introduction. Vintage decor doesn't have to be expensive. With a little creativity and a keen eye, you can transform secondhand treasures into stunning home accents. Thrift stores, flea markets, and even your own attic can hold hidden gems waiting for a revival. From furniture makeovers to small decorative touches, you'll learn how to create a timeless aesthetic without breaking the bank. In this video, we'll explore simple DIY tricks, budget-friendly finds, and easy ways to give your home that old-world charm. Whether you love distressed furniture, antique details, or vintage textiles, there's something for everyone. Get ready to turn affordable thrift store finds into elegant, character-filled pieces. Let's bring vintage beauty into your space without the hefty price tag. 1. Where to find affordable vintage gems. Thrift stores, flea markets, and estate sales are the best places to start your vintage hunt. Visit thrift stores early in the morning to get first pick on newly stocked items. Estate sales often have high-quality vintage furniture at lower prices, especially on the last day when discounts increase. Flea markets provide a mix of unique finds, and vendors are usually open to negotiation. Online platforms like Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, and local buy and sell groups are also great for scoring vintage deals. Set alerts for specific items, so you're notified the moment a good deal is posted. Don't hesitate to check garage sales in older neighborhoods. They often have hidden treasures at bargain prices. Keep a running list of what you're searching for to stay focused. Pro tip: bring cash when shopping at flea markets or estate sales. Sellers are more likely to negotiate if you pay in cash. 2. Thrift store hacks: what to look for. Always check for real wood furniture instead of particle board. It lasts longer and can be easily restored. Scan the dishware section for vintage ceramics or glassware, as they add charm to any space. Look for detailed picture frames, ornate mirrors, and classic books that enhance an old-world aesthetic. Check tags on clothing for natural fabrics like linen, wool, or silk, which age beautifully. Test drawers and doors before buying furniture to ensure they open smoothly. When shopping for vintage decor, small imperfections like patina or minor scratches can add character, but avoid major damage. Bring a small measuring tape to make sure larger furniture pieces fit in your space. Keep an open mind. Sometimes a little creativity can transform an overlooked item. Pro tip: don't be afraid to dig through bins or shelves. Hidden gems are often buried under other items. 3. Hidden treasures. Best thrift store sections. The best sections for vintage finds are usually overlooked by casual shoppers. Start with the furniture area for solid wood tables, cabinets, and chairs with vintage charm. The home decor section often hides unique candle holders, vases, and ceramic dishware. Don't skip the textiles area. Vintage lace curtains, embroidered linens, and wool blankets can elevate your space. Check the art section for vintage frames, old paintings, or decorative mirrors that can be repurposed. The book section is a goldmine for leather-bound classics and old cookbooks with beautiful illustrations. Even the hardware section can have antique knobs and handles that add a vintage touch to dressers and cabinets. Take your time. Hidden treasures require a careful eye and patience. Pro tip: always check for brand markings on dishware, furniture, and clothing. Some items could be valuable collectibles. 4. Estate sales and flea markets. Best budget-friendly spots. Estate sales are perfect for finding high-quality vintage furniture, kitchenware, and decor at lower prices. Go on the last day of the sale when items are heavily discounted. Flea markets offer a mix of antiques, handmade goods, and collectibles. Always negotiate for a better deal. Arrive early for the best selection, but stay late for last-minute price drops. Some of the best finds come from smaller, lesser-known flea markets where vendors are more flexible with pricing. Estate sales in older neighborhoods tend to have authentic vintage goods, rather than reproductions. Bring a tote bag or small cart to carry heavier items easily. Don't be afraid to ask sellers about upcoming sales. They might give you early access. Pro tip: the best way to negotiate is to bundle items. Sellers are more likely to give discounts on multiple purchases. 5. How to spot quality vintage items. High-quality vintage pieces are often made from solid materials like real wood, brass, and porcelain. Look for dovetail joints in furniture instead of glued or stapled construction. Check clothing labels for natural fibers like wool, cotton, or silk. They last longer and feel more luxurious. If a piece has weight and detailed craftsmanship, it's likely a good find. Flip over dishware and home decor to check for maker's marks or stamps indicating authenticity. Vintage mirrors often have slight aging or foxing, which adds character but should not obstruct the reflection. Be cautious of reproductions. If an item looks too perfect, it might be a modern replica. Trust your instincts. If it feels special, it's worth considering. Pro tip: carry a small flashlight to check for imperfections in furniture, paintings, or glassware before purchasing. 6. Easy DIY tricks to restore vintage furniture. Start by cleaning your thrifted furniture with mild soap and water to remove dirt and grime. For wooden pieces, use a mix of vinegar and olive oil to restore shine. If the paint is chipped, lightly sand the surface and apply a fresh coat of chalk paint for a rustic look. Replace old hardware with antique-style knobs to enhance its vintage appeal. To distress furniture, sand edges and corners lightly for a naturally aged effect. Use dark wax to add depth and a more antique finish. For upholstered pieces, recover cushions with vintage-inspired fabric for a refreshed look. A simple coat of white or pastel paint can completely transform outdated furniture into a timeless piece. Pro tip: if a wooden piece has deep scratches, rub a walnut over them to minimize their appearance naturally. 7. Painting and distressing, giving items a rustic look. Chalk paint is the easiest way to give furniture a soft, vintage appearance. Apply a base coat, let it dry, and then sand lightly along the edges for a distressed effect. Layering 2 paint colors and sanding selectively can create an aged, time-worn look. A dry brush technique with minimal paint on the bristles helps add depth and texture. To create a chippy paint effect, apply wax between layers of paint so the top coat peels naturally. Adding a dark glaze over painted furniture enhances its antique feel. For metal items, use a rust activator to create an authentic weathered look. Experiment with different distressing techniques to find what suits your space best. Pro tip: sandpaper, a candle for wax-resist painting, and steel wool are your best tools for an aged finish. 8. Small changes that make a big difference: handles, frames, and more. Swapping out basic drawer pulls for pro tip: adding a little gold or bronze rub-on paint to edges gives DIY decor an antique finish. Picture frames can be refreshed with gold or antique glaze for an old-world touch. Replace standard light switch plates with decorative metal ones to add charm. Even small details like vintage-style keyhole covers can enhance an antique look. Add crown molding or trim to plain furniture for an elegant, classical appearance. Use washi tape or wallpaper inside drawers to give them a unique, vintage-inspired look. Repurpose old brooches or cabinet pulls into decorative wall hooks. Sometimes the smallest changes make the most impact in achieving a vintage aesthetic. Pro tip: look for vintage-inspired hardware online if you can't find originals at thrift stores. 9. How to mix vintage and modern decor for a balanced look. The key to mixing vintage and modern decor is contrast. Pair a sleek, modern sofa with a distressed wooden coffee table for balance. Use vintage-inspired lighting, such as chandeliers or Edison bulb lamps, to bring warmth into a modern space. Keep color palettes neutral to allow vintage accents to shine. Incorporate modern furniture with vintage textiles like lace curtains or Persian rugs. Mixing old and new decor prevents a space from feeling outdated or overly themed. Display vintage pieces in clusters for a curated look, rather than scattered randomly. The contrast of time periods creates a layered, sophisticated design. Pro tip: stick to a cohesive theme: French country, Art Deco, or mid-century modern, to blend styles seamlessly. 10. Affordable vintage-style decor you can make at home. Create DIY vintage-style candle holders by distressing glass jars with chalk paint and sandpaper. Repurpose old picture frames into decorative trays with a coat of antique glaze. Use tea or coffee to stain paper, and create vintage-style prints or handwritten notes for decor. Simple embroidery on linen can add a nostalgic touch to cushions or napkins. Turn old books into unique storage by hollowing out the pages and stacking them. Paint mason jars in pastel tones and add lace or twine for a charming centerpiece. Use vintage-inspired wallpaper or fabric to line shelves or create wall art. Handmade decor adds personality while keeping costs low. Choosing the right color palette for a vintage vibe. Soft, muted colors like cream, dusty rose, sage green, and faded blues create a vintage feel. Stick to warm, earthy tones for a cozy and timeless look. Incorporate aged whites and soft grays to enhance an antique aesthetic. A mix of pastel and deep jewel tones can add elegance without overpowering a space. Consider using wallpaper with delicate floral patterns or damask designs for extra charm. Dark wood furniture pairs well with neutral backdrops to highlight its vintage appeal. Layering different shades of the same color creates depth and warmth. Color choices should complement your vintage finds rather than clash with them. Pro tip: distressed finishes and faded hues naturally add to the vintage aesthetic without extra effort. 12. Textures and fabrics: the secret to a cozy, timeless space. Rich textures like lace, velvet, and linen to create an old-world feel. Layer vintage-inspired rugs over hardwood floors for warmth and depth. Use sheer curtains or embroidered fabrics for a soft, romantic atmosphere. Mixing rough textures like burlap with delicate lace balances the vintage aesthetic. Quilts, crocheted throws, and tufted cushions add character and history to any space. Upholster chairs with vintage-inspired fabric for an easy furniture makeover. Textured wallpaper or fabric-covered walls bring depth to a room. A blend of soft and rustic materials enhances the charm of vintage decor. Pro tip: combine different textures in similar tones for a cohesive and inviting vintage look. 13. Decor must-haves for an authentic vintage feel. Antique mirrors, ornate picture frames, and distressed wooden furniture set the stage for a vintage look. Classic rotary phones or vintage typewriters make great statement pieces. Decorate with old books, brass candlesticks, and weathered trunks for authenticity. A mix of glass bottles, ceramic vases, and lace doilies adds delicate charm. Vintage clocks, framed botanical prints, and rustic wooden crates. Look for secondhand oil paintings or embroidery art to create a gallery wall. Small touches like iron bed frames, milk glass dishes, and floral china make a big impact. Carefully chosen accessories complete the old-world ambience. Pro tip: group similar vintage items together for a curated and intentional display. 14. Arranging and layering: how to style your thrifted finds. Layering is key to making vintage decor feel intentional rather than cluttered. Stack old books as risers for displaying smaller decor pieces. Combine different textures and materials, like a distressed wooden tray with delicate glass bottles. Arrange vignettes by grouping items in odd numbers for a balanced look. Use layering in wall decor by mixing different size frames and mirrors. Incorporate vintage baskets for storage while maintaining aesthetics. Rugs, tablecloths, and throw blankets add depth when layered properly. Thoughtful placement turns thrifted finds into curated design elements. Pro tip: use different heights and textures to create visual interest in your displays. 15. Final touches: making your space look effortlessly vintage. The finishing touches complete the vintage look. Add fresh or dried flowers and antique vases for a timeless feel. Soft lighting, such as warm-tone bulbs or candles, enhances the cozy atmosphere. Use vintage trays or decorative bowls to organize smaller items while maintaining aesthetics. Scent plays a big role. Lavender, vanilla, or sandalwood candles can enhance the vintage ambience. Swap modern light switch covers with ornate vintage-style options. Keep the space clutter-free while letting your vintage finds stand out. The key is to create a home that feels curated, cozy, and timeless. Pro tip: vintage-inspired scents and warm lighting help set the perfect mood for your space.